Hey, what did this job pay?
Nothing.
Don't!
Unless you're crooked.
Woohoo!
Ah, yes. I just did a little quick search on Harold Daggett, the head of the Longshoremen's Union, and you'll never guess what I found. I used the Google machine. I did a little GTS on this guy, Harold Daggett of the Longshoremen's Union. Listen to this. The Journal of Commerce. This is from July 27th of 2004. Another ILA official indicted. The International Longshoremen's Association. Harold Daggett Jr., Assistant General Organizer of the International Longshoremen's Association and a member of the ILA's Executive Council, was indicted this week, again in 2004, 20 years ago, in federal court in Brooklyn on extortion and conspiracy charges. No problem. He is the third ILA official to face federal criminal charges in recent months. But wait, it gets better. Law enforcement authorities described Daggett as a Genovese crime family associate. You don't. People say you can't make it up. You never have to make it up. Why would you make it up? They do it for you. It's amazing stuff. So they described Daggett, Harold Daggett, as the guy who's now the head of the entire union, the International, as a Genovese, one of the five families. This is total gangster land. This is, the Corleone family and the five families and the Genovese crime family. Really, they represent the good old days in a lot of ways when it comes to New York, too. So they described Daggett as a Genovese crime family associate. Was he a captain or a capo or, was he just a soldier? What was he? Genovese crime family associate said his arrest and those of other ILA officials are part of a broad investigation of mob influence within the union. Can't believe that, huh? His arrest followed federal charges of extortion and mail fraud last month against Arthur Coffey and three other senior people in the International Longshoremen Association. These are my associates. They've got a nice restaurant downtown where they meet. Isn't that amazing? Just great. Your Democrat Party. Amazing. Now, I should point out that in 2005, because I did a quick search, 3 longshoremen not guilty of fraud and other charges. I wonder if the jury had a talking to. I wonder if they met anybody an accused mafia figure who disappeared during his federal trial on waterfront corruption. Really, it all goes back to Marlon Brando and On the Waterfront, right? Charlie, you're my brother. You're supposed to look out for me. Honestly. ... So an accused mafia figure, this is great stuff, disappeared during his federal trial on waterfront corruption charges and is feared dead. Feared dead was acquitted yesterday along with 2 co-defendants, both high-ranking officials of the International Longshoremen's Association, the ILA. The not guilty verdicts were a significant blow to federal prosecutors in Brooklyn who brought a civil racketeering suit against the association in July in an effort to take over the union, which they charge has been controlled by 2 New York mob families for about 50 years. Well, it's good business to be in, honestly. Defense lawyers for the 2 union officials, Vice President Arthur Coffey and Harold J. Daggett, the Assistant General Organizer, contended that the acquittals on extortion and conspiracy and fraud were a setback to the government's civil suit. Sounds like it was, doesn't it? Brought under the Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act. That's RICO. So they got him under RICO. This really puts a hole in the civil RICO, and hopefully they'll go back to the drawing boards. Right, says Mr. Coffey's lawyer. We may not see the civil RICO. It's great stuff. Just amazing. Womp, womp, womp. Prosecutors, while acknowledging that the loss was a setback, said they believed that the government would prevail in the civil case. They said a fourth defendant, the union's executive vice president, Albert Carnatis, is it Carnatis? Carnatis, pleaded guilty this year to conspiracy to commit mail fraud and wire fraud. What's the problem? Come on. So there it is, and now this guy is the president. He's of which mob family? Because, the indictments, hey, it's only an indictment. No convictions. Rico Schmico, I got to tell you. And the thing is, it may very well be the case, too. But he was indicted in 2004, 20 years ago, where they said he was a member of the Genovese organized crime family. I've always preferred organized crime to disorganized crime. What we have in Washington is a lot of disorganized crime. New York and Chicago used to run pretty well when the organized crime families were in charge. And then the organization fell apart. Know what I'm talking about? Isn't that amazing? Yeah, I know plenty of people who know plenty of people, right? And I'm texting with somebody this morning because we're talking about that, talking to somebody who grew up in Harold's neighborhood, right? Harold Daggett's neighborhood. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. And it's kind of funny in New Jersey, in Sparta, New Jersey, right? And everybody knew he's a total mobster, right? Went to church. He went to church on weekends with his ankle bracelet on. He's got his ankle bracelet for going to church. And he had kids. He was raising kids who were famous for passing out in people's front yards and driveways in the neighborhood. And they'd wake up hammered. Hey, whose car is parked over my head? Because Dad, Harold Daggett, he's a union rep. Didn't Tony Soprano always say that he was a union rep? And now he wasn't he a union? Somebody in the Soprano outfit was a union rep. That's how it goes. Yeah, so Harold Daggett's kids would pass out drunk in driveways and front yards, and Harold Daggett would wear his ankle bracelet to church. But he's going to church, which is nice. Nice family man. And the federal government said that he's a member of the Genovese crime family. Now he's the top dog. He's the capo di capo at the International Longshoremen's Association. It's an association. And he says, what did he say, Michael? He's going to break your knees? Is that what he said? It's going to be a mete-out punishment.
Let's get a contract and let's move on with this world. In today's world, I'll cripple you.
Because in today's world, I'll cripple you. And as a representative of the Genovese crime family, sure. Why not? So we got that going on. That is your Democrat Party is what it is.
I move that Homer Simpson be our new union president. All in favor?
Aye!
All opposed?
Nee.
Congratulations, Homer.
Hey, Homer.
Hey, what did this job pay?
Nothing.
Don't!
Unless you're crooked.
Woohoo!
In which case, much better. I got to say. The Democrat Party, these are their friends and associates. He's an associate of Mr. Biden's. Isn't that great? Man, oh, man. All right, we haven't taken a telephone call in a while. Let's take a telephone call. Where's my page? Where's my sheet with the names on it and stuff? Hey, here it is now. Look at this. All right, let's go to Michael calling from Hagerstown, Maryland. Miguelo, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Yes, Chris, this is Miguelo, man. You're my favorite guy since old Rush Limbaugh passed away. So we miss Rush. But
yes, we do.
You're a good sub. Hey, listen, I got some friends in Israel that visited us late September, and then went back to Israel and all that mess in early, October. And I've been dialoguing with him via WhatsApp, and just to let you know, these guys love Netanyahu and they love Trump. They want Trump to be reelected. So, we need a president. I was talking to him, and we need a president with some fortitude, or I don't know if the left knows what balls are anymore, but somebody with some balls on them that would assist Israel every time Iran or the Iranian proxies, which is nothing more than Iran, every time they attack Israel, we need to remove an Iranian asset. We, the USA, take out their oil fields, take out their nuclear facilities. I don't want war with Iran, but they need to pay a price for being a mess. So I share that with you, and I also want to ask you a question, which I can't get an answer to, and that is, why do Arabs hate Palestinians? Mm-hmm. None of them will take any Palestinians in, not Egypt, not Jordan, not Saudi Arabia, not Lebanon. What is it with that? So I'll just leave you with those two things and let you run with it.
Well, you covered a lot of territory there and a lot of good stuff. Democrats, they know because they have bull jars. They have bull jars, which they may put on Funkin' Wagnall's front porch starting at noon today, but ball jars are for balls. And, when your son comes home from school with a ball jar, it's usually bad news because the Democrats have already gotten to him. And it's like that. And thank you for the very nice comparison to Rush Limbaugh. And Rush is missed. That's for sure every day. There is, there was one Rush Limbaugh and nobody else is, and no one else will ever be Rush Limbaugh. But thank you for the kind words. The Palestinians have a really bad reputation in the Arab world. They have a reputation as being not very smart, of being violent, of being criminal. The Egyptians would sooner mow them down with machine gun fire than let them in. They built a wall on the south end of the Gaza Strip to make sure that no Palestinians escaped from the Gaza and got into Egypt because the Egyptians want nothing to do with them. Jordan,
you mean walls work? Walls work?
Yeah, not when Democrats are around. It's amazing. They worked in China. They worked in the Middle Ages in Europe. They work in Egypt on the south end of the Gaza going into the Sinai. And yes, they do work. And you know it. I know it. The American people know it. But the Palestinians have a very, very bad reputation. A significant percentage of the population in Jordan is Palestinian, and they won't take any Palestinians. The king won't take any Palestinians. Even Syria, which is in the middle of a never-ending civil war, won't take any Palestinians. Lebanon will not take any Palestinians. Palestinians are kind of, what was the Yoko Ono song about women? I don't think I can say it here, but Palestinians are kind of the N-words of the Arab world, and they're not welcome anywhere in the Arab world. The Saudis will not take one of them. Nobody will take the Palestinians because they're the riffraff of the neighborhood. Everybody knows it. They're like Daggett's kids waking up drunk on your front lawn and on your driveway. It's an amazing world, isn't it, Michael? And
I think they like the antagonism that the Palestinians provide to Israel. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, that's absolutely true. Yeah, and they use them up, and they don't care how many Palestinians are killed. They really don't care. They don't care how many Lebanese are killed. In that region of the world, life is cheap. And,
agreed.
And with Democrats and the left in the United States and beyond, life is also cheap. The Democrats don't care that there are 10,000 African Americans murdered in the United States every year now, and they wear T-shirts that say Black Lives Matter. But all evidence would suggest that the opposite is true. More than 1 million abortions last year in the United States, not all African American, but about 40% of the black population aborted, about 10,000 African Americans shot and killed. To the left, life is cheap as well. In fact, the left proved in the 20th century how cheap life is for them. Remarkable stuff.
Iran's been attacking us for years, okay? And so why don't we take out their assets? Just take them out. I don't want to go to war with them, but, they're a paper tiger. We can take their oil fields out in probably one night.
Well, all you have to do is flood the market with the global market with U.S. oil, and you will gut their economy overnight. President Trump did that when he was president. Then Joe Biden undid that, and Barack Obama did the opposite as well. It's almost like they're not on our side, Michael. Pretty amazing. Amazing times we're in. Michael, thank you. Great call. Thanks a lot. You know, as you gear up for back to school and the fall season, here it is. Your feet deserve the same level of support that they got throughout all your summer adventures. I hope good summer adventures, too. Introducing G-Defy shoes. G-Defy shoes have VersaShock technology. And unlike ordinary brands of shoes, G-Defy shoes offer a superior shock absorption and trampoline-like energy return for your feet that help provide you with relief from ankle pain and foot pain and even knee pain and sometimes your back discomfort too. Whether you're a parent tackling a new school year, chasing after the kids everywhere you go, just hustling through the daily grind like most of us, G-Defy shoes offer the comfort and versatility that your feet crave. My best girl and I, we each have a pair of G-Defy shoes, and we love them. We do. Hiking around the city, the moment we got them. Every pair includes 2 free sets of supportive orthotics and special lateral stabilizer built in that have been proven to help the way you walk, you run, your stride. It's a beautiful thing, and as a listener to my humble radio broadcast, you get to enjoy a special back-to-school offer even if you're not going back to school. Just visit gdefy.com and get $20 off your order of $100 or more with the code CHRIS. That's GDEFY, gdefy.com. Don't forget to use the code CHRIS for your $20 off your order of $100 or more. Step into the fall season with G-Defy shoes. Visit gdefy.com today. Ba-da-da-ba-da. You hear about this University of Kentucky guy who says that the hurricane is punishment for MAGA and Trump supporters. That's what these fascists say. Of course, he doesn't believe in God. So, I've got that coming up. So the Washington Post doesn't have the story, but the New York Post does. Wacko, former University of Kentucky staffer, said Hurricane Helene was an act of God to punish Trump supporters. There are also people discussing whether the flat-footed response by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden is because these are Republican areas, and you know how these fascists are. An unhinged former staff member at the University of Kentucky floated the idea that the death and destruction of Hurricane Helene unleashed in red states was divine retribution for their residents' support of former President Donald Trump. Then they fired on Fort Sumter again. Hurricane Helene, what if God is punishing MAGA populations for their hate and hypocrisy? The Democrat Party. Yeah, this woman at the University of Kentucky woman, very angry, hates Republicans, and a member of the Confederate States of America, the party of the Confederate States of America, just amazing. You're Democrats. Yes, sir. The Washington Post today has a piece by one of their tongue bathers, Philip Bumpy. Bumpy's got an article. When shooters target Republicans, as they so often do, Republicans blame more than the shooter. Well, they may if you guys are involved in an effort to demonize people who then have crazy people trying to kill them all over the place. And you guys are in bed with Iran, and Iran is threatening the world and civilization itself, yet you're funding Iran and making excuses for them, and you hate the Jews. I'm nominating Benjamin Netanyahu for the Nobel Peace Prize because he's taken out so many bad guys, so many enemies of civilization. I think that it's a good thing that he's killing all these bad guys because, these guys. But when a shooter targets Republicans, Republicans blame more than the shooter. And Bumpy here talks about when Ryan Ruth was arrested for attempting to kill Donald Trump, the reaction on the right was very different. It was very different. Well, you know, the left, see, the thing is, the first Republican president ever was shot and killed by a Democrat, right? John Wilkes Booth, who was not only a Democrat, but an actor. And he loved slavery, too, because so many Democrats do. Now they like illegal aliens as their slaves. It's a little different, sex slavery and all that stuff. Speaking of which, did you see that they arrested another human trafficker in Martha's Vineyard? Another Martha's Vineyard illegal alien, of course, human trafficker, arrested. Just amazing. And the immigration people who the Democrats want to defund out of Boston arrested another fugitive trafficker, human trafficker, and drug trafficker, but he's a human that's slavery and, you know, sex slavery and child sex slavery and exploitation, and the Democrats are okay with that. But ERO Boston arrests fugitive in Martha's Vineyard wanted by Brazilian authorities for international drug trafficking and also for human trafficking, enforcement and removal operations. That's ERO. We have to abbreviate everything. In Boston, apprehended a fugitive in Martha's Vineyard who's wanted by Brazilian authorities. They want to put him in prison for more than 10 years, resulting from a conviction for international drug trafficking crimes. Officers with ERO Boston arrested the 36-year-old Brazilian fugitive in Oak Bluffs. That's one of the towns in Martha's Vineyard, very popular. Remarkable stuff. The fugitive was convicted of international drug crimes in Brazil. Instead of serving his debt to society, he chose to run and hide on Martha's Vineyard. Well, we leave all the doors and windows open, so what do you expect? Our officers are the best in the world at finding people who don't want to be found. ERO Boston will continue our mission to prioritize public safety by apprehending and removing egregious non-citizen offenders. That sounds like a good idea. The Brazilian national was lawfully admitted to the United States in 2020, March 7th of 2020, at Orlando, Florida. However, he violated the terms of his legal admission, and a Brazilian court convicted the Brazilian national of international drug trafficking. And, you know, for the Democrats, this is like, hey, they're just being open-minded. They're fine with this. Just amazing. Yes, sir. And yesterday, ICE arrests 2 men for crimes in home countries. Now, they arrested them again at Martha's Vineyard, and they're wanted in El Salvador, and they're wanted in Brazil for various crimes. But when you have open borders and you leave all the doors and windows open, all the criminals from Brazil and from El Salvador and from every place else are going to come here because they see on the news that we are that stupid. It's hard to be that stupid, but we are as a culture, as a country. You know, civilizations are based on a set of laws or sets of laws, and never mind all that, because the Democrats don't subscribe to any of that. Attempting to hide out in Massachusetts, escaped the law in his home country. Yes, sir. So he posed a substantial threat to the residents of Martha's Vineyard, but they're very open-minded. So everything is okay. Human traffickers, sex traffickers, child sex traffickers, drug traffickers, and the Democrats, they just shrug. Say, yeah, whatever. They don't value human life. That's one of the issues that we're dealing with there. Now, where did I leave off on the all the good audio stuff? Because these guys. Yeah, now, again, the Nobel Peace Prize for Benjamin Netanyahu. Let's go to soundbite number 12. Joe Biden yesterday was asked about Israel and an Israeli military incursion into South Lebanon to go after Hezbollah leaders that they can't get with bombs. You know, they have these underground bunkers that go down 60 feet and more. And in fact, Hassan Nasrallah was hit with bombs. He was, according to everything I've read, 60 feet below the surface of the earth at a bunker. And the bombs, they had to drop repeated bombs, boom, 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 to get 60 feet down. And then Nasrallah didn't die. He wasn't killed by the explosion, by the blast. It turns out that the explosion burned up the air, as it does in the underground lair in which Hassan Nasrallah was sheltered, and he suffocated. He suffocated down there. And honestly, I've got to say, proper ventilation is important, and they should know that in Lebanon. They've been around for thousands of years. You know that you need proper ventilation. But Joe Biden was asked yesterday about Israel's incursion into South Lebanon, and instead of supporting the representatives of civilization in that region, and that's Israel, and condemning the terrorism being funded by Iran, and by extension, the Biden administration and the Democrats in the United States who are funding Iran, and then Iran funds Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis. And Joe Biden was asked yesterday, well, what about Israel going in and getting the bad guys?
Well, just the fact that Israel may be now launching a limited operation into Lebanon. Are you aware of that? Are you comfortable with their plans?
I'm more aware than you might know, and I'm comfortable with them stopping. We should have a ceasefire now.
Yeah, again, it's framed as though Israel is the aggressor, and Israel represents the problem. They're not the aggressor. Israel is not the aggressor. Netanyahu is not the aggressor. And he should be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize because long-term peace sometimes requires short-term killing because the bad guys are psychotic, suicidal mass murderers, and they love death more than you love life, just like the Democrat Party. Amazing stuff. General Anthony Tata, former U.S. Army general, one-star, all-around good guy. Hey, what do you think about what's going on in Israel, between Israel and Lebanon and the Houthis and Hamas and all that? And by the way, there's an election coming up. What were things like under Trump compared to what things are like now in the Middle East?
4 years ago, we had maximum pressure on Iran. We had Abraham Accords with peace breaking out all over. The Biden-Harris administration unwound the Abraham Accords. They unwound maximum pressure. They gave billions of dollars to Iran. They unfroze billions of dollars of Iranian assets. That money has flowed to Hamas and Hezbollah.
Yes, Tony Tata pays attention. He knows what's going on because he's a smart guy. And he's a soldier. And no one wants peace more than a soldier. Almost all the time. Usually. Now, I saw Kellyanne Conway on the television this morning also, a Republican operative and Trump supporter. She interviewed President Trump for Fox Nation, I believe, and was talking to President Trump about the attempts on his life, the attempted assassinations, and asked President Trump whether he feels safe on the issues with the Secret Service and all that. Do you feel safe?
I asked him that question. I said, do you feel safe? He said, no. And I said, do you feel footprints? You feel differently out there? He said, yes, I do. He said, it's a dangerous business. And it should not be an occupational hazard for Donald Trump or anybody else running for president that you get up on that podium and you're looking around every time you get on your plane.
I honestly, that's a pretty straightforward question. Do you feel safe? Note that none of the phony baloney news media asking President Trump does like 12 interviews a day with media, and nobody would ask him, do you feel safe? Do you feel safe? But Kellyanne Conway, I think correctly and legitimately asked, do you feel safe? And the answer was no. And honestly, he shouldn't feel safe because the left is here. And Iran, it was announced last week by our government, the Director of National Intelligence Office, I believe it was, the ODNI, and because we abbreviate everything, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and announced that Iran has apparently yet another plot to assassinate President Trump. But it's worthy of note that they don't have a plot to assassinate Kamala Harris. And they don't have a plot to assassinate Joe Biden. Why not? Well, why would you assassinate your allies in the U.S. government? Don't be ridiculous, right? But Iran sent a Pakistani man weeks ago to the United States to hatch a plan to assassinate President Trump here. He was arrested. He is, I believe, still in jail. Maybe Kamala raised bail for him, and he's back on the loose, going to nice restaurants in New York or something. But amazing, amazing stuff. Does President Trump feel safe? The answer is no. I was talking about this yesterday. I'm actually probably more concerned about President Trump's safety and security today than I was 2 months ago after all that we've learned. And I can't help but think that the government, the Office of Director of National Intelligence, the intelligence community has been corrupted by the left. See the letters signed by 51 so-called intelligence officials, including Communist Party supporter and Communist candidate voter John Penitentiary Face Brennan, the former director of the CIA. So when the DNI tells you, the Office of DNI tells you that there's another plot by Iran, that is, that's not good. The Pakistani in jail. Then the shot taken at him in Butler, Pennsylvania, where he's returning on, today is October 1st. On October 5th, he's going back to the same location in Butler, Pennsylvania to hold another rally. That's pretty extraordinary, I've got to say. And I'm concerned about his safety and security. So we've got all this going on, and then you've got people from the University of Kentucky saying the storm killing more than 100 people is God smiting MAGA supporters, Trump supporters. The Democrat Party is they're a bunch of commies. They're a bunch of lefties. Nobody's murdered more people than the commies in the history of the world. Amazing stuff. Man, oh man. Yes, sir. Also, let's go to Joe Kernan. We've got Joe Kernan, who was on CNBC, and we played the audio a while back of Joe Biden's Commerce Secretary, Gina Raimondo, who's a former Democrat governor and now a cabinet member. And she was asked, "Well, what are you doing about the strike that's going to cripple the economy?" And she said, "I'm really not paying attention to that." Well, Joe Kernan was on CNBC, and he said, "Well, gosh, Gina Raimondo, maybe there are a couple of things that," and this is Gina Raimondo is on the television with him, not in the same studio. I think she was in a different location. But Joe Kernan, the anchor on CNBC, and Gina Raimondo saying, "I'm really not paying attention to this pending strike that will cripple the economy," on the lead up to Election Day, by the way.
By the way, he was president. We know what that resulted in. Massive deficits.
Seems like you kind of forgot that earlier. Yeah, and the tariffs that he did put on were continued by the Biden administration. There was no recession. Real wages were actually up. Stock market did well. A lot of very positive things happened. Record low unemployment until the pandemic. So it's just weird to act like it's a complete wild card what kind of president he would be when you've got a blueprint right there of what kind of president he would be. And Kamala Harris has been vice president for 4 years, and we've seen exactly what kind of vice president she would be.
Right. What have you seen? You've seen more manufacturing in this country since any time since World War II.
I've seen real wages go down. I've seen, crime.
That's not true.
What's not true?
I just don't agree with that.
Real weekly wages have gone down.
I don't agree with that.
Average weekly wages are still down from when Biden came into office.
She doesn't agree. It's not really a matter of agreeing. It's math. It's economics. She's not an economist. Gina Raimondo. Is she with the Genovese crime family? Gina Raimondo? How many of these people are with the Genovese crime? I didn't realize the Genovese crime family was so big, so prosperous. All right, I don't think she's really with the Genovese crime family. But she lies a lot. She's a Democrat. She's a cabinet secretary, a former governor. and her pants are on fire.
Where are the issues most prominent? Where have you been kind of focused and hearing on what would happen if the strike goes, let's say, longer than a week?
Again, I have not been very focused on that.
Yes, sir. By the way, it's kind of crazy. The lefties and the Islamists, I don't understand. Oh, I should say our phones went down again. I know there were people hanging online and our phones went down again all at once. Our apologies once again. I blame the NSA. I think it's got to be the NSA. So BDS, the blockade and destroy and sanction Israel, the anti-Semites, they're all Democrats and they call themselves liberals. The pressure campaign, governments to deny anchorage to suspicious ships en route to Israel because they want to cut off shipping to Israel so Israel can't get supplies of anything, the BDS movement. And interestingly enough, it's kind of weird, the longshoremen have been involved in supporting the BDS movement and blocking ships going to Israel, the Longshoremen's Union. What's up with that? They hate the Jews. It's crazy. And the Catholics hate the Protestants, and the Protestants hate the Catholics. And the Hindus hate the Muslims, and everybody hates the Jews. The Democrat Party they're a strange organization, aren't they? Listen, tonight is the big debate, the big vice presidential debate. CBS is hosting. They're hosting the debate. And it's going to air everywhere on Newsmax. I'll be watching on Newsmax myself. But you can watch it anywhere. You don't have to watch CBS. Don't give CBS the viewers. I wonder if they'll ask Tim Walz about saying that he was in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square massacre when he was really at home in Nebraska. He said it during congressional hearings and stuff. He lies a lot. He's not an honest man, not a good man.